weapons. The hunt begins here in Raqqa, but would take us across northern Syria and beyond. The deal started with a media blackout. The Islamic State's escape was not to be televised.
They've gone for good and won't ever return.
And what of the city that IS abandoned? With them gone, the first people are slowly being...
Now more than 400 people have been killed in a powerful earthquake that struck Iran's northern border region with Iraq. At least 6,000 people are injured and rescuers on both sides of the border are still searching for survivors. Landslides and power cuts have made it harder to reach those affected. James Robbins reports.
The moment the earth starts shaking violently, a man runs for his life from the control room of this dam as massive boulders are hurled around outside. The dam wall was not breached, but elsewhere, devastation. In Iran, the border town of Sapor-e-Zahab was hit hardest. As entire walls collapsed, many families did manage to flee their homes, but others were crushed or buried. Rescue has been made more difficult by the mountainous terrain. Iranian authorities are pouring resources in, but landslides and power cuts are slowing both rescue efforts and the task of establishing the full extent of casualties. This quake was 7.3 in magnitude and happened in a known danger zone. The surface of the Earth is made up of tectonic plates, and in this case, the Arabian plate has been moving roughly northwards against the Eurasian plate at a rate of 2 centimetres, just under an inch a year. Forces build up and eventually are very suddenly released with devastating effect.
Also breaking tonight, major storm damage across the Northeast. Millions reeling from heavy rains and hurricane-strength winds. Floodwaters sweeping a home down the river right there in Warren, New Hampshire. At its peak, more than 1 million customers in 7 states without electricity. That system has now moved off the coast tonight. About that. To the index of other news and 2 major weather systems, so let's get right to Ginger tonight. She's tracking both of them for us. Hey, Ginger.
Power already being knocked out as we speak, David, in the Pacific Northwest. West Seattle reporting up to 63-mile-per-hour gusts. Portland could see up to 65-mile-per-hour gusts in the high wind warning. That's Storm 1. Storm 2 is the one I want you to watch for the Northeast this weekend. As college students and all of us really start thinking about travel, it's the rain-snow mix and where that line sets up that we will be detailing as we get through this week.
All the way through Saturday. Thank you. The powerful house explosion in Canby, Indiana tonight. At least 2 neighboring houses damaged. The fire chief there tonight blaming a gas leak. Luckily, no one was home. Scientists with the federal government issuing a new report this evening on climate change. The study finding global warming is largely man-made, blaming in part the burning of fossil fuels. The report also says climate change is to blame for record high temperatures and the growing frequency of floods, hurricanes, and heat waves. And the jet engine fire in Seattle, travelers in the terminal at SeaTac Airport seeing a Hawaiian Airlines plane on the tarmac. Flames pouring from the engine as it was landing. No passengers on board. They were getting into place for another flight. The crew was not hurt.
The army retook the city, but only by destroying it. ISIS lost more than 900 fighters in the battles in these streets, yet it's claiming victory because it held this city for so long. The battle here may be over. The threat from ISIS is not.
And Tracy got an up-close look at the U.S.-led drill.
These F-18 fighter jets from the USS Ronald Reagan could strike targets in North Korea in a matter of minutes. 3 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups, the Reagan, the Theodore Roosevelt, and the USS Nimitz, are involved in these massive military exercises just off the Korean Peninsula. It's the largest display of U.S. naval strength in the Western Pacific in a decade. But these U.S.-led exercises infuriate North Korea, which views them as rehearsals for an invasion and calls the latest drill reckless and provocative.
At a UN climate conference in Germany today, the Trump administration talked up fossil fuels, including coal. That puts the U.S. at odds with 194 other nations. But some American entrepreneurs and politicians want to make sure the administration does not have the final word. Mark Phillips reports.
Despite the kids' demonstration, saving the world has been harder since the Trump administration announced its pullout from the Paris climate deal. There is an enthusiastic American delegation at this UN conference, but Washington didn't send it. State and city governments and businessmen like Michael Bloomberg did.
The American government may have pulled out of the Paris Agreement, but the American people are committed to its goals, and there is nothing Washington can do to stop us.
Washington has other ideas. Its main pitch here is to promote coal, which much of the world sees as exactly the wrong way to reduce greenhouse gases that cause global warming. The leaders of this alternative delegation, like California Governor Jerry Brown, say, ignore Washington, listen to us.
America, we're here, we're in, and we're not going away. Thank you very much.
And the 14 states who've come here say the U.S. can still reduce carbon output by 1/4 over the next 8 years as promised, partly because clean energy projects are also happening in some unlikely places.
If I went into Yuma, Colorado and said, we can help save the planet, they turn me around and send me right back.
Russell Tenzin told an environmental tech conference in Lisbon, Portugal, that he actually sells most of his wind turbines in red states that voted Trump.
If you go out to these farms, it's blowing. Like the wind, the doors are flying off the hinges. You can feel it. It's like, take that resource, do something that makes sense, lower your costs. They get it.
The argument being heard at conferences like this is that, well, it would be nice to have the support of the administration in Washington in fighting climate change. That support is not essential. In the end, economics, not politics, will prevail. And the newer forms of electricity generation, wind and solar, are in the long term not only cleaner, they're cheaper.
Iran has ended rescue efforts along the border with Iraq, where a powerful 7.3 earthquake struck last night. More than 400 people were killed, more than 7,000 injured. Here's Holly Williams.
They searched for survivors today and found many more of the dead. But the worst damage was in a poor and mountainous region in Iran that hugs the border with Iraq. 70,000 people are now reportedly in need of emergency shelter, just as winter is closing in. Iran is crisscrossed by fault lines and has grown used to deadly quakes. The worst ones have killed tens of thousands. But that's no comfort for these people, left with just the rubble of their homes.
Some stunning pictures out of the capital of India, New Delhi. The smog is so thick it's actually causing traffic pileups, drivers unable to see where they're going. United Airlines even temporarily canceled flights to the city until the air improves. Local officials have closed schools because of the extreme air pollution caused by low winds and farmers burning their fields before planting their winter crops.
A look at some other news now, and Zimbabwe's ruling party has accused the country's top general of treasonable conduct after he said the military was prepared to intervene to stop political infighting. ZANU-PF said in a statement that General Constantino Chiwenge's criticism was calculated to disturb national peace. There's been no word from President Robert Mugabe. Hundreds of people from all over the world are in North Carolina this week for the Flat Earth International Conference. Organisers say the event is meant to help uncover and debunk pseudo-scientific facts. Beliefs vary within the Flat Earth community, but most argue that the Earth is a disc and not a sphere.
How do I feel about this?
Wars?
Deception. Now it's just kind of funny to me.
To me, this is Satan's greatest lie.
Destruction?
I got a dog. I have a tortoise in your chest. Come back with his mouth and all be chewed up.
Death?
I feel that I've been deceived.
We used to think when we got started individually in this that we were alone. And we have one thing in common. We live on a flat plane.
When you're watching videos at home, it's just you and the screen. And it's lonely. I came here because I needed to see what flat Earth people look like. and I was not disappointed. They look normal. Very few people overweight. About 30% of them are cigarette smokers, and only 4 of them that I met are from around here.
Nobody likes this uncomfortable feeling of being this tiny ball flying through space, this vast, endless universe. So as far as what's underneath this, I don't know, could be this thickness. It doesn't even have to be that thick, because we can only drill down 8 miles. Heck, if this is only 50 miles thick, we don't know. So it could be this sort of dimension. Don't take my word for it. I could be a mental patient recently released from an institution.
Once I decided that I had to go with it being flat based on my gut feeling and common sense evidence, then I was looking around to see who was making a working model of the flat Earth, and I couldn't find him anywhere. I guess I was the chosen one, or the calling, because I had the skills to do this. I just put some ice in here because the sun, as it goes around, pretty much keeps this area melted.
How do you know that the Earth is flat?
Well, I've watched over 50 hours of video. So I went down to the seashore, down in New Jersey, and I did my own testing.
What sort of testing?
So you take a straight edge, and you go from one end, and you follow the horizon of the ocean, and you go straight edge just to the other end, and it's flat.
To the index, the second storm now hitting in the west and headed straight across the country. The first system already deadly. At least one person was killed, several injured by falling trees in the Seattle area. A passenger recording her plane flying through strong winds. Pilots making 3 attempts before landing at SeaTac Airport. The new system, snow, wind, and rain moving east, and it could very well affect holiday travel across this country right into the weekend. The fiery escape from a passenger plane in Las Vegas. Newly released video tonight from the NTSB now showing the British Airways plane that was consumed by smoke and flames during takeoff. Emergency chutes deployed. 159 passengers running to safety back in 2015. The new video, as investigators now blame catastrophic engine failure for that moment.